How the hell could anyone and any responsible media commentator argue that the government should be retained, let alone that the same government had done a good job? One commentator today has said that Perrottay's legacy will be judged, quote, one of the greatest in New South Wales history. What was the famous quote from the movie The Castle? Tell him he's dreaming. Chronic staffing shortfalls in hospitals, in teaching and in police. But at the 11th hour, Perrottay was promising to boost the numbers of nurses and doctors. I alone seem to be asking, why hadn't that already been done? Western Sydney was supposed to be the battleground. This was the same Western Sydney where the Premier launched his campaign. It's a wonder he wasn't run out of the joint. The same Western Sydney where children weren't allowed to go to school because of a flawed response to coronavirus. And here were kids not free to go to school and the parents not free to go to work. The same Western Sydney in desperate need of more police, while Perrottay ridiculed Minns for wanting to remove the wages cap to try to keep police and teachers and nurses on their jobs. In Western Sydney, where Perrottay was saying, vote for us, the Police Association was saying that staffing levels are a recipe in Western Sydney for disaster. The Premier was talking about cashless gaming cards, which won't come into being until 2028. Minns was saying, deal with the here and now and the toll burden faced by people in Western Sydney. Dominic Perrottay launched his campaign, Think of Your Kids, Vote Liberal. But a city the size of Sydney doesn't offer heart transplant surgery to children. Patients, I've told you this, and their families have to travel to Melbourne, where such a journey, of course, poses health risks and increases the trauma of an already frightening situation for these children and their families. Doctors at Westmead have the skill and experience, but no money. But the Treasurer, Matthew Keane, can offer $3,000 rebates for the first 25,000 electric vehicles that are bought. The Perrottay-Keane government produced a budget which went on a $27 billion spending spree, but no money for heart transplant facilities for children at Westmead Hospital. But $10,000 million on so-called green energy programs. $10 billion. A $6 billion blowout in the Chatswood to Bankstown Metro. A $475 million blowout on the first stage of the Parramatta Light Rail. And this government was being endorsed by media outlets everywhere as economic managers. Clearly, they'd done no homework, like the people that they were supporting. TAFE colleges, as I said, looking like industry archaeology of the 1970s. An education system where 15-year-old students are 4 years behind same students in China in maths. No money where it's needed, but $1.5 billion to subsidise electric vehicles when most of the voters can't afford them. And yet the Perrottay government kept saying, vote for us, we have a plan. Where did that language come from? Well, Perrottay employed this Yaron Finkelstein, who presided over the Morrison catastrophe. And Morrison kept saying, didn't he, we have a plan. It is inconceivable that these issues were never addressed in the media other than on this program. Here, as you know, I say things as they are, not as we might like them to be. And I will apply the same scrutiny to the Minns government. But when you've got a Liberal government bringing down a budget with a 26.5% increase in expenditure, greater than anything Gough Whitlam attempted in 1974 when he was called an economic vandal, then you have to say there is no such thing as a Liberal government, other than in name.